Hello, welcome back to my channel, Off the Grill. Today you're going to have to forgive me as I will not be actually cooking anything on the grill. Don't fret, there will be fire involved anyway. So I'm going to be doing a typical Finnish stew for you today. Why Finnish stew? Well, for those of you who don't know, I am South African, but I live in Finland. I've been living here for more than half my life. I also work in a professional kitchen. So I do have a fondness for food. That goes without saying. And I love stew is one of the best things to eat, in my opinion. Finnish style stew, I like it. It is so simple to make. It's only a few ingredients. It doesn't take a long time prep wise. It does cook forever, but apart from the cooking time, you can have this meal ready in literally 15-20 minutes of work. So join me and we'll make some typical Finnish stew. So what do we need for our traditional Finnish style stew? We need two types of meat. Normally in Finland most people buy it pre-cut, ready mixed in packages. I prefer to cut it up myself. The ratio is better. Normally if you buy it ready from the shops, you're generally getting about 70-80% pork and the rest is beef. And I prefer a 50-50 mix. So I have some pork shoulder and I have some chuck roll or stewing beef. There's roughly a kilo of each. Then we need some onions. They'll be roughly chopped. We have some carrots, they'll also be roughly chopped. And then for flavoring, we have some salt, we have some black pepper, some allspice, and some bay leaf. And for liquid, most people normally use water. I prefer the taste of beer to water, so we will be using beer today. So let's get started. Chop this stuff up, layer it in the pot, and then cook it for a very, very long time. So we start with our carrots. They don't need to be chopped fine, just a rough chop. And I have half a kilo of carrots here. I will include the recipe for this again. So don't need to try and remember it. Once we have our carrots chopped, then we will start with our onions. So onto our onions. Same thing as with the carrots. They don't need to be chopped particularly fine. I like a nice rough chop. That'll do spectacularly. Once we get our onions chopped up, we'll start with our pork and then we'll cube our beef as well. Now, often enough when you make a stew, you brown off the meats. For this, you don't. It just goes all into the pot. So, we'll start now with our pork. So, onto our pork neck. I cut this first into steaks and then I cube it. This can also be in fairly decent sized chunks. It does not have to be cut into tiny little cubes. Split it down the middle. And just cube your meat. We'll do the same with the beef. Now onto our stewing beef. There's some silver skin, don't need to remove it. It's going to cook for so long it will disintegrate. This gets cut into fairly large pieces as well. You can, I suppose if you want, cut it finer, cut it smaller, but I couldn't be bothered because life's too short for things like that. Now I realize that not every Finn is going to make Karelian stew the way I do it. That's fine. There is more than one way to skin a cat, apparently. And no, I'm not advocating that you skin a cat, and I have never skinned a cat. I don't know how it's done. I have no inclination. So our beef is basically cut up into cubes, and now we assemble this into our pot. So now we assemble our stew. This really is so simple. Splash of oil in the bottom, and then add a little bit of your beef, a little bit of pork, some of your carrots, some of your onion, break it up a little bit, some bay leaf, a few allspice, a little bit of your salt, some pepper, chuck your 1 can of beer now, then you just repeat the process. It really is that easy, and this has so much flavor. Once it cooks for a long time, this will be in the fireplace overnight, and in the morning it should be ready. It'll take probably 10 hours to cook, and the flavor is just spectacular. It is so simple. You can taste everything that's gone into it. Nothing is dominant or overpowering, and this is going to get served with mashed potato, and it is something so special, I think. I don't understand why people don't appreciate Finnish cooking more, because I like the way they do it. They respect the ingredient. It's nothing complicated, and it's just basic flavors. And there we go. We've almost finished with this. I'll finish this off, and then we get a fire started, so that we can cook this overnight. So here we have our stew all layered up. Time to stick a lid on it and get a fire going. So now we just need to get a fire going, and once it's burnt down, we close it all up, and our stew will go in and cook overnight. So our stew has been cooking all night, and it's now time to see what it looks like. The smell is incredible. Meat is fall apart tender. It was cooking for about 11 hours in total. And there we have it, Finnish Karelian stew. This will be served with some mashed potatoes, Finnish style stew.